Christopher Tostrup Paus, Count of Paus, September 10, 1862 to September 10, 1943, was a Norwegian landowner, heir to the timber firm Tostrup and Mathieson, papal chamberlain, and count, known as philanthropist, art collector, and socialite in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He inherited a fortune from his grandfather, timber magnate Christopher Tostrup, and lived for decades in Rome. In 1923 he bought the estate Hereste in Sweden, which is still owned by descendants of his cousin Herman Paus, who was married to a granddaughter of Leo Tolstoy. He gave large donations to museums in Scandinavia and to the Catholic Church. A convert to Catholicism, he was appointed as a papal chamberlain by Pope Benedict XV in 1921 and conferred the title of Count by Pope Pius XI in 1923. He was the recipient of numerous papal and Scandinavian honors. He was a first cousin once removed of playwright Henrik Ibsen and was the only Ibsen relative to visit Ibsen during his decades-long exile when he wrote his most famous works. Born in Christiania, he belonged to the Cheyenne branch of the Paus family, and was the son of Major and War Commissioner in Old Johan Altenborg Paus, 1833–1894, and Agnes Tostrup, 1839–1863. His father was a son of lawyer and Judge Henrik Johan Paus, 1799–1893, who owned the estate Osterhag in Elverum, while his mother was a daughter of timber magnate Christopher Henrik Hallfeld Tostrup, 1804–1881, one of the two main owners of Tostrup and Mathieson, one of Norway's largest timber companies. Christopher Paus's father was also a first cousin of playwright Henrik Ibsen. As a young man, Christopher Paus would visit the then-famous Henrik Ibsen in Rome, where he lived. His great-grandfather Christian Lintrup was one of the pioneers of the medical profession in Norway. Christopher Paus became a millionaire as a young man when he inherited a fortune from his maternal grandfather and his two childless uncles Oscar and Thorvald Tostrup, who were all co-owners of Tostrup and Mathieson. His family sold their shares of Tostrup and Mathieson to their business partners, the Mathieson family, in the 1890s, and the company was since renamed Mathieson Eidsvoldverk and continued under that name and as Moelven Industrier. His maternal grandfather had also owned the estate Kjellestad and Stafell. A convert from Lutheranism to Roman Catholicism, he was appointed a privy chamberlain of the Sword and Cape, Cameriere Sagredo di Spada e Kappa, by Pope Benedict XV on February 22, 1921 and reappointed by Pope Pius XI on February 8, 1922 and by Pope Pius XII on March 7, 1939. By tradition, a Norwegian Catholic would hold this position, and he succeeded Wilhelm Waddell Jarlsberg, who held the post some years earlier. He was conferred the title and rank of Count by Pope Pius XI on May 25, 1923. He bought the estate Narverod near Jonsborg, Norway, in 1892, the estate Tristorp with Chateau in Lykeborg, Sweden, in 1914, and the estate Herresten outside Marefred, Sweden, in 1923. In 1942, he bought the mansion Maglias outside Copenhagen in Denmark. He divided his time between his various properties in Scandinavia and Rome. Christopher Paus was a major art collector, and notably owned the largest collection of Greek and Roman art in Scandinavia, which he largely donated to the National Gallery of Norway in 1918. He also made donations to museums throughout the Nordic countries and in Rome. He died in Skodsborg in Denmark without children in 1943, and bequeathed much of his estate to select members of the Paus family. In 1938, Hereste was sold to his second cousin Herman Paus, who had married Countess Tatiana Tolstoy, a granddaughter of Leo Tolstoy. Their descendants still own Hereste and other Swedish estates. Maglias was inherited by Thorleif Paus, who sold it to the Catholic Church some years later. It was held a mass for him, as a member of the papal court, in the Pope's private chapel on September 14, 1943 with Pope Pius XII in attendance. He is buried at Varfrelsersgravland in Oslo, in the same grave as his mother, maternal grandfather, and other members of the Tostrup family. He was usually known as Christopher Tostrup Paus in Norway, but like some other family members he used the name de Paus abroad as an international form of the name. In the Acta Apostolici Sedis and the Annuario Pontificio, his name is partially translated into Italian as Conte Cristoforo de Paus. September 10, 1862 to May 25, 1923, Christopher Tostrup Paus. May 25, 1923 to September 10, 1943, His Excellency the Count of Paus. Papal and Catholic honors. Knight of the Order of Pius IX. Knight Grand Cross of the Order of St. Gregory the Great. Knight Commander with Star of the Order of the Holy Sepulchre. Knight of the Magistral Grace in Gremio Religionis of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, 1924. Knight Grand Cross of the Sacred Military Constantinian Order of St. George, 1923. Gentleman of the Chamber Scandinavian Orders of Knighthood. Commander with Star, Storidara Cross Mistjornug, of the Order of the Falcon, 1937, Commander, 1924. Commander of the Order of St. Olaf, 1938, Knight First Class, 1919. Commander of the Order of the Dannebrog, 1922. Commander of the Order of Vasa. Knight First Class of the Order of the White Rose of Finland. A list of honors as of 1934 is found in the book Den Kongelige Norsk St. Olavsorden.